2006 116 S&S FXDBI for sale. Let's check it out. All right, what's going on YouTube? FXDLSBROOKLYN is back in the building. And yeah, after 3 years of multiple requests of people wanting to buy this bike, we're finally deciding that now is the time to finally sell this thing. Before we break it down any further, I will tell you that this is 100% the fastest bike I have ever ridden. It has inexhaustible power in both the high end and the low end. And then of course, in the high end, you could be in the higher gears at a very high speed and this bike will still pull instantaneously. So what we'll do is we'll kind of do the normal walk around just to kind of go over the key features of the bike and talk to you a little bit about any other information I think you should know about. Okay, so we're currently at 8,732 miles. That's the amount of miles on this bike right now. We got at 5,000, so you know, put about 4,000 miles on the bike. Before we get too far into it, I don't want to waste anybody's time, but the price that we are asking for this bike is $12,500. That price is firm. We're not looking for any trades, not looking for any negotiations. So again, that is the set price before we get into this. So if that's 100% not in your price range right now, then again, I don't want to waste anybody's time. But regardless if it is or isn't, you just want to see what's in this bike or what's going on, why don't we take a little walk around to see some of the key features, some of the key parts. So the first key feature about this bike is 100% the engine. Anyone who's ever run an engine that is not factory knows that an S&S rebuilt is just a completely different beast. Especially something bigger like a 116, this thing is completely out of control, has no limits in terms of power. So I've said it many times, this bike is 100% louder and faster than anything else, and that's due to this insane engine that we have in here. While we're here, the air cleaner is an Arlen Ness Big Sucker. Next notable thing, we have the Fab 28 Peter Gunn Special looking particularly shiny today. So those of you who are not familiar, this is the more aggressive upsweep version of a Fab 28 that was developed by Peter Gunn's, local legend around here. I don't think they actually make this version anymore with the upsweep, but if you do ride aggressive, if you do ride in city environments, if you're doing a lot of maneuvering, you want that. And you know, it's pretty much what I run on all my bikes at this point. Suspension, we're rocking the 13-inch top of the line Legend Revo Arcs. These things are insane if you haven't ridden with them yet. The Revo A's are great too, but this is just a completely different level. So again, top of the line suspension rear. And of course, we're also running the Legends front suspension in the front. So again, you're getting top of the line performance in terms of the engine work, top of the line performance in terms of your suspension. As for the bars, these are Lucky 13s, 13-inch. They have that little pullback. These have been great. Same bars I run on my Lowrider S. While we're here, you got your Thrashin Supply bar bag. And in the rear, you got the Thrashin Supply Essential bags. Flow mini floorboards as the pegs. Dual disc front conversion with Galfer rotors, as well as Performance Machine calipers. The one, the only, the Memphis Shades Road Warrior 11-inch windshield, also Memphis Shades handguards. While we're up here, all the lighting is from Moon's MC. This is the Fly Eye V2, super bright, as well as the Moon Pod's turn signals that function as turn signals as well. And of course, we got the light bar. So this thing is giving off an insane amount of light. Not that video ever does it justice, but trust me, you're going to be seeing on this thing. As for your lighting in the back, we have the Custom Dynamics Laydown LED, as well as the functional license plate frame. This thing actually gives off a lot of light in the back, so just good in terms of not getting rear-ended. And other thing that's just really worth mentioning on this bike is it does have an easy pull clutch, so you could easily pull this with one finger. It's like no clutch I've ever felt. So if you're someone that's doing a lot of stop and go, a lot of city riding, this makes that type of riding really easy if you're in situations where you're having to do a lot of clutch work. So not you know, not a lot of frills on that one, but probably one of my favorite things about this bike. So you're probably asking me, why am I selling this? The reason is I showed you the mileage. We bought this thing 3 years ago with 5,000 miles. There's not even 8,000 miles on it at this point. So you all know the amount of miles that I do in a season, and it's pretty clear that this bike is not getting ridden the way it should be getting ridden. And I would be keeping it if I didn't get that FXR, but just with the FXR, unfortunately, this bike is just kind of sitting too much, and it's just too dialed in and too built at this point to be sitting around not getting ridden. You can 100% use this bike for a city bike. Again, it's an insane, unnecessary amount of power, especially in the city and pretty much in any riding condition. But it is really nice in the city for the nimbleness of the frame, the suspension that could really handle any type of situation the city roads are going to throw at you, and then also that easy pull clutch makes city riding a breeze. Where I find though that this bike has really performed in a way that will just make your jaw drop is just doing your highway miles. When you hop on the highway with this thing, pretty much what feels fast on another bike will feel really slow on this bike. Like I said, it'll get away from you if you're not careful, but this bike really just wants to go at insanely fast speeds at all times. It really does just want to rip. The idea around the build was to just do a American classic hot rod build. So you'll see we kept a lot of chrome, we kept the spokes, you know, we kept a lot of black, and of course we built this thing with performance at the top of our focus. So at the end of the day, this thing is going to beat most of the new Milwaukee 8s off the line, unless you're dealing with something like a totally built 131 crate or something. This bike is going to smoke everyone. So if you want to be louder than everybody else and faster than everybody else, then this is your bike. I could also see this bike being a really good choice for someone who has a touring model like a bagger or something and just wants something else that's super high performance that you know you're going to rip on. That's this bike. The last thing I did forget to mention is you could also 100% tour on this bike. It was something I was planning to do, but then I went the FXRT fairing route with my lowrider, so it didn't make sense to tour on anything but that. But it does have the docking hardware for a detachable sissy bar. So throw a sissy bar on this, and this is now your touring model. It would be the same setup that Vong Asphalt uses, and you see the miles that he crushes. So at the end of the day, this bike has been really good to us. I've had a blast on those 4,000 miles I got to put on it in 3 years, but it's just not practical to have the 3 bikes. It's not getting ridden the way it should, so we're just looking to give this thing a new home. So if you're interested, this bike would have to be picked up from the New York City, Brooklyn area. The best way to get in contact with me is shoot me an email at fxdlsbrooklyn@gmail.com. You could also shoot me an email on Instagram, but I do not check that very often, so just don't be surprised if that takes a day or two. And that's really it. I'm gonna really miss this bike a lot. I'm gonna really miss a insane, inexhaustible, unquenchable amount of power. Gonna miss getting off this bike at the end of my rides and saying, what the hell just happened? But at the end of the day, this bike needs a new home and this bike needs to get ridden. So if this bike is right for you, let us know. If that price is right for you, let us know and we can make something happen. As always, stay safe, stay low, and on that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.